Welcome to Valley Homes on TV. I'm Debbie Giordano, and you're watching Todd Flesner and I on Channel 26, where you can see us on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 6:30 p.m. and Saturday and Sunday at 9 a.m. Welcome, Todd.
Welcome, Debbie. It's good to see you, as always.
You too, yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Great fall weather out there, isn't it?
It's fantastic, and as we're taping this, we're in the middle of baseball season, playoffs, so it's exciting here in the Bay Area.
Oh, Giants.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Terrific. Well, you are a baseball fan, that's for sure.
It's my favorite sport. So.
Oh, and you coach your son's game?
Yeah, my son Thomas and I, on the baseball field together, and so, enjoy that. I really love the game.
Great.
So we're not here to talk about baseball today, though. We do have a guest, and I'd like to introduce folks to my guest, Bamboo Alana.
Nice.
And
welcome. Thank you.
Bamboo's got has an interesting background and a real specialty that helps a lot of folks that are concerned about their health, and particularly about pain and pain management. I know a lot of people, deal with that and wonder what sort of solutions might be out there for them. So I thought it would be good to introduce folks to Bamboo and talk a little bit about that.
Well, great. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
And I'll just get to start right off. So tell us about yourself, where you grew up and where you're educated, and maybe how you ended up here in the Bay Area.
Sure. Well, I was born in the Bronx a long time ago, and I grew up in New Jersey with my 5 brothers and my parents, and then I escaped to Woodstock eventually. But on my way there, I did escape to Woodstock, and, but it wasn't because. Well, anyway, I escaped to Woodstock. But before I escaped, I started college, and at Rutgers University, and I was going to be a PE teacher, and I decided that what I wanted to do from high school was help kids really enjoy their bodies, because I saw kids that were really suffering with really awkward and frustrated and really unhappy about moving and being athletic and stuff like that, because I was a tomboy and I did everything, and so I wanted to help them, and so I was going to be a PE teacher, but that didn't come to pass because I escaped Woodstock. And so I went to school in New Paltz, and they didn't have a PE program, so that went off the deep end. But there was a class that I took there in kinesiology, and that's the study of movement and how the body moves and stuff like that. And it was a really important class, because ever since then I would watch people walk, I would watch them move, and I would be able to see what was going on in their body and be able to track that. And that has come to pass after all of these years.
Wow.
To what I'm doing now. And so, it's really kind of cool.
So again, how did you end up here in the Bay Area?
When I was in New York, I was living in this tiny cabin in Woodstock, and I came to California for 9 months, 32 years ago, and I never went back.
Uh-huh.
I ended up with a long-term relationship, and that was that, and California kind of grew on me. It's been very good for me.
Good.
And I lived in San Francisco for 18 years, and I moved to Mountain View, and then I moved to Los Gatos, and now I live in Felton.
Uh-huh. Nice.
And so I have the trees.
And you can have those open concerts out there, huh? Felton, I'm just kidding. I don't know. We can scratch that if you want off the tape.
No, it's
it's okay.
I'm talking about your favorite bands or anything like that.
That's
Todd, go ahead. I'm going to punt to you.
So you were inspired then through some of those experiences that you had, and so maybe talk us a little bit about what your practice is,
Yeah, my practice is called myofascial acupuncture, and basically it's a combination of 3 modalities. When I lived in San Francisco, I worked at San Francisco General. And I started as a volunteer, and I became an aide, and then I became a physical therapy assistant and got my license there. And what I saw were that people weren't getting better with the conventional kind of treatments. And I said, what can I do? How can we get to the root of the problem? And so I was really honing in and looking for solutions for people to really help them get better. And one day, the occupational therapist in the rehab department showed me this wonderful technique. It was called myofascial release, and she had a hand patient who had just had surgery, and his hand was really stiff, and this gentle treatment just opened it up and gave him so much movement without pain, without any kind of whatever. And I said, "Oh my God, that's it."
Wow.
And so that was like a light bulb that went off and really gave me the impetus to move forward with that. And after that, I took as many classes as I could and started practicing it, in spite of the PT saying, "Blah blah blah, that's no good, that's no good." And now they're also really taking on myofascial release as something that's worthwhile.
So that's a different type of acupuncture than
It's not
what's-
acupuncture.
Okay.
It's not acupuncture.
So then how does that differ again?
Okay, so what happened, well, the thing that's different about acupuncture and myofascial release is that you stick needles in somebody, and the principle and the foundation of acupuncture is Chinese medicine, and that's the meridian system. And what the myofascial release is, basically it's working, my perception. There are lots of different stories about what myofascial release is and how it works, and there's lots of controversy. But I've been doing it for 22 years,
And you've seen results.
absolutely, it's the most amazing work, and I'll say more about that in a moment. But the fascial tissue is the connective tissue in the body. It's like when you're cutting up a chicken and you pull the skin off and you see that white filmy stuff, that's the fascial tissue. And that stuff goes from head to toe in a continuous web. We used to think it was layers and sheets, but it's a web, and you can even see on, in electron microscopy, how the collagen fibers go into the muscle cells, and we never knew that before. And so basically, it's holding the body together, and the structure of it also, it's so complex. Even though doctors and most medical people want to see it as basically just simple structural support and protection, it's so much more. And so when we work with it, we're actually, and the combination of where it fits together with acupuncture is that the meridians run through the fascial system. Because everything, all the points, all the meridians go everywhere in the body, and it connects everything to everything. And the fascial tissue connects everything to everything. And so when you're working with the fascial tissue, you can engage the meridians, you can engage points to get releases throughout the whole body. And that's something that most people don't do,
Makes sense.
and it's really awesome.
So this sounds real specialized. So do you have specialized training and background in this?
Well, I've gone through school as an acupuncturist, and I did that. And while I started studying acupuncture in '95 and myofascial and cranial work in '93, and as soon as I was able to start, I couldn't separate them. It's like I see the body and I see fascial tissue. It's like I don't see just points. I see what's going on here in the body. And so I've taken hours and hours of training in myofascial and cranial work. Cranial work is the deepest layer of the fascial tissue. That's the dural membrane of the brain. It goes all the way down the spine, and it connects through the fascial system throughout the whole body. And so you can access that. I mean, people say, "Oh, you can't do that," but you can. It's like, I don't care about the controversy. I know what happens. And so, you can connect to it, and that's even more complex. There are ways of, can I tell you a story?
Sure.
Sure.
So I took a couple of dissection classes through the Upledger Institute, which is a major teacher, program for craniosacral work. And what we did is, this may seem, like little gory or stuff like that, but we took the gray matter out of the brain, and so we just had the membrane all the way and through and when we pulled on the membrane, we could see the toes wiggle. And when we wiggled the toes, we could see the membrane move, which basically told us that you touch anywhere in the body and you can connect to anything anywhere else. And that was a very physical, explanation or demonstration of what was going on.
Well, Bamboo, I was going to ask you what you like best about your profession. So I think maybe you've touched. I mean, I guess results.
With the results, getting people. It's really transformational work, because when people come in and they've got chronic pain, and they haven't been able to get better, and they've been around the block, they've seen the doctors and the chiros and the massage therapists and everybody, drugs and everything, and they're almost hopeless. They don't know what's going on, and they really can't get better. We look at the body really differently, and so we're looking for, because everybody goes to where it hurts, and where it hurts is usually not where the problem is. And,
Interesting.
And even if you've had like a sprained ankle, People will sprain their ankle over and over again. And what happens is that the body compensates when, oh, I'm not walking on my foot, and so they hike their hip, and that hip stays hiked, even though they're walking sort of normal. And it pulls all the way down into the foot and causes things to not work as well as they can. And so you have to kind of clear everything that's going out. It can go all the way up to the head. I know lots of people are going to say that's nuts, but, it's really not. And so what we're looking at doing is undoing that. And so it's a mystery, it's an exploration, it's help. It helps people really open up to their lives, because when they've been in pain for so long, all they see is pain, and they can't see anything else. But when we start getting rid of the pain and they start getting better and better and better,
Wow.
then they can see their life in a whole different light.
So I'm curious, you talked about that fascial tissue and the interconnection. I mean, is that part of the neuro system? Is it part of the muscular system? Or is it a separate sort of thing in and of itself?
The fascial tissue is a separate entity. However, what we found, in the last 20 years, there's been so much more research about fascial tissue. And one of the things that we found is that there are nerve endings, free nerve endings, which really are mechanoreceptors. And so when you press it or twist it or turn it or I have different kind of inputs, we'll have a different response and will react. And so they're all over the fascial tissue. In fact, there are more nerve endings in the fascial tissue than anywhere else in the body. And so it basically, when we're working with the fascial tissue, we're also working with the nervous tissue. And because it's so intimate with the muscles and the muscle tissue, it really has an effect. But how you work with the fascial tissue is going to be different than working with the muscles, because muscles stretch.
Okay, so we talked about the rewards, and obviously there are many. What do you find really challenging? What are the basic challenges in your career?
The biggest challenge for me working with, is getting clients and people to hear and be willing to try something new and different. Because this is outside of the box. This is outside of the box in terms of how people work with bodies. It's like if you have a pain, people work where it hurts. They don't see the connection. And so getting people to really step into that and give it a whirl. I teach classes to people, like self-help classes, and I can also, I can give them tools and techniques that get them right out of pain. It's like, why don't they why are people just jumping at this? And I have no idea. So it's like, how can I bring them in? But when they experience it, they get it.
Okay.
So now, what sort of folks or cases are best suited for this sort of treatment? What are good clients for you?
The most wonderful clients are those that have had, like old injuries, or new injuries, and they've had old injuries that they've forgotten about or, thought they were healed. Surgeries, scar tissue. Women with C-sections generally end up with, problems, pain problems that are far away from their lower abdomen. And they'll have pain in their chest or their shoulder or their elbow or, their rib cage or their neck or their arm and their leg. I mean, I've had lots of runners come in and, have you had a C-section? Yes. And as soon as we release the scar tissue, boom, they can run faster. And so the scar tissue is it's not just the surface scar tissue, but it's the internal scar tissue when everything gets cut. A C-section is really brutal, back surgery, neck and shoulder surgery, all those surgeries, sports injuries, foot problems. I really like working with the feet because you get to the soul of the issue. And it's really fun. People think that like plantar fasciitis, is a problem in the foot. Sometimes it's in the foot, but a lot of times it's elsewhere. Like, when I've taught groups, to help themselves with plantar fasciitis, and we start with the head. And before we even get to the knee, they're out of pain or the pain is a lot less than it was. So it's a really diverse, kind of, chronic pain from old injuries, sports injuries, stuff. People who are really active and want to stay active and want to get back to active. Whether they're, hikers or runners or, elite athletes, and, it really doesn't matter. But they really have a desire to get moving again and love their body.
I'm curious, are there other professions that you work tandem with or refer, or like other chiropractic, massage, anything else that works in concert with what you're doing?
There are a lot of there are a lot of professions that could work with that, but it's like again, it's connecting with them, the right professionals, because there's some chiropractors that I love what you do, and it's like, and they aren't doing ART, which is another bodywork technique, sort of like myofascial release, but it's different. They're not doing as much body work. They don't want to. They're strictly wanting to do chiropractic stuff. Those would are really good ones. Personal trainers, yoga instructors, Pilates instructors, because usually they have clients that can't do something.
Mm-hmm.
They've injured themselves doing something, and they can't work a part of the body. And what we would do is get to that and get that open. It's like dancers. I had a tango dancer who couldn't do this step, and she could only dance for like an hour a day, or and only a couple days a week. And what we ended up being able to do is getting her to be able to do that move and be able to dance 5 hours a day.
Nice.
And so it's really looking at the pain problem in a very different way. And so, I would love to be able to work with orthopedic doctors and, dentists too, because they have problems, jaw problems and stuff like that. And that's usually not just in the jaw. And so it's looking at the whole body and saying what's going on in the whole body. And that's what's different from me, than with other practitioners. Because I'm looking, it's like, let's look at the whole body.
Right. So in your practice, and you've touched on a lot of different ways that you help folks, but if someone's in chronic pain, what are some good questions that they ought to be asking themselves to maybe lead them on a path of discovery about how to deal with that?
Well, if they've seen a lot of different practitioners and they've all treated the same thing, you want to ask, is that really the problem? Who's going to help me?
Treatment without getting results, you mean?
Right, they're not getting the results they want, or they keep getting worse, or they get better for a little bit and then they get worse again. So it doesn't heal, it doesn't take them where they really want to be going, and it's like, and everybody's treating the same thing. And so, it's like, who's going to help me really get to the root of the issue? And, we talk about this, I have this pain in my shoulder, and it's really coming from my knee. It's like, how could that be? Because people aren't going to ask that question. Is there something else? What kind of injuries, what kind of surgeries have I had? What else has happened in my body? Because it's all connected. The whole body is connected, and if we don't look at the body as connected whole,
Right.
we can't get to the root of the problem.
Right.
Right.
So what would be your goals and aspirations in terms of your work and career?
In terms of my work, I want to write a book. I would like to do
Nice.
a presentation at at one of the next couple of fascial conferences. I think I missed the next one, and that's an international conference, and I would love to do some research.
So there's a network of your professionals.
Yeah, a number of years ago, they got together, some researchers got together with some clinicians, and so there's a conference every couple of years, all over the world, and they get together and share research and clinical practice and stuff like that. So there's a real dialogue, what's really cool about that is that here we have researchers and clinicians having to work together, because the clinicians inform the researchers, and the researchers inform the clinicians about what's really going on. And without the connection between the two of them, the research wouldn't get as far, the clinical work wouldn't get as far. And so it's a real good marriage. And a lot of science and a lot of research in lots of different fields don't do that. I want to write a book, and I want to teach more classes, because get it out to the world.
Terrific. So if someone wants to find out more, how can they get in contact with you?
Well, they can call me on the phone, 408-655-5767. That's a great way. You can also email me at bamboo.ilana, ILANA, 53@gmail.com.
And we'll put that on
And my website is bambooilana.com.
Terrific,
So
yeah.
that's
great. Well, thank you for spending a few minutes with us.
Oh,
and
thank you for having
talking
me.
about
I
this very
appreciate it.
fascinating practice. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, thanks
you.
for coming on, and appreciate your time and,
Thank you
and
so
sharing
much.
with folks.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Think you found every hazard out here today? Think again. The spot you missed could be a killer. That spot on your skin could be skin cancer. Fact is, if you're a man over 50, you're in a group most likely to develop skin cancer, including melanoma, the kind that kills one person every hour. 1 in 5 Americans is likely to develop a form of skin cancer during their lifetime. That's why your best shot is to check for a spot. It's easy. Follow through and check your skin. It could be the save of a lifetime. Go to spotskincancer.org to find out how. A message from the American Academy of Dermatology.
Welcome back, everyone. You're watching Gallery Homes on TV. I'm Debbie Giordano, along with Todd Flesner. So
Yeah, we have our wrap-up.
we do. This is for the month of October, and got some information for buyers and sellers. We'll talk about potential sellers first. With the impending drought, one of the questions that homeowners have is, should I put in artificial grass versus having real grass? And I got this article out of the San Jose Mercury, which I thought is kind of cool. Back in 2007, we had 10 or 11 different grasses. Today, we have 24 different products of artificial grass.
Okay.
And here's a good comparison on whether you want to do artificial turf or natural grass. Natural grass costs about $1.50 to $2 square foot installed. Artificial grass is $8 to $14 a foot installed. So it's quite pricey, but then you look at the potential advantages. Natural grass provides familiarity, like a smell of cut grass, where artificial grass eliminates the need for pesticides, stays green all year round, low maintenance, and depending on the area, can improve your home value, actually. Maintenance, natural grass takes water, fertilizer, and reseeding and mowing. Artificial grass, you just need a little bit of water to wash away the dust and pollen and any litter from animals that has to be taken care of. And then environmental impact. Natural emits oxygen and it's biodegradable. Artificial conserves water and is not biodegradable, but will eventually end up in landfill. So you have to think of those long-term impacts. And last but not least, potential problems. Natural grass has a continual need for maintenance and ongoing. Artificial concerns only about chemicals used in production and can separate if the actual grass will separate if it's not properly installed. So anyway, that's
Interesting. Thanks.
Yeah.
Because I've actually been thinking about that since we're in the middle of drought,
Right.
and I've got a brown lawn at this point in time. I've been wondering about that myself. Are there some advantages to going artificial versus?
And we might look to have somebody on the show next time that that is in that field.
I think I know a guy.
Perfect. I want to talk about rates. First of all, the stock market has been like a roller coaster.
Lot of
for the last-
volatility.
Right. So let me ask you about interest rates. First, so many people have refinanced. Let me go back a minute. It says in the San Jose Mercury in late August, interest rates fell to not much more than 4%. If we're in a recovery, then how come mortgage rates are not higher? And one of the reasons they give is that so many people have refinanced. Is that true?
Yeah, a lot of people took advantage of the lower interest rates over the last couple of years. We have seen a dip here recently, and currently rates are as low as they've been in the last 18 months. But there's always supply and demand. And then interestingly, you talked about volatility in the stock market. We saw a little bit of a correction coming into the fall in the stock market. We saw a couple days 200, 300 point drops in the Dow. And that uncertainty causes what we refer to as a flight to quality. All right, the bond market, which is a little bit more stable, you know what the rate of return is going to be there in the bond market, and therefore folks were buying bonds as a cover for the losses in the stock market. When that happens, interest rates typically will go down because of that demand.
Well, and one of the other factors they give is real estate demand is down, and that's based on a national level, I think.
Yes.
So that would be true?
Yeah, across the country, if you look at what the number of sales or the sales volume is for real estate right now, we're at very, very low numbers historically.
Okay.
And if lenders want to be able to lend money, they have to keep the rates low, because at a little bit higher rate, folks just are not going to pay that rate.
All right, and a third reason is that cash sales continue to be a part of the marketplace. How does that
Correct.
affect interest rates?
Well, here in this area, cash sales are a piece of that market. Again, it's that competition for where does money go, and if lenders want to be able to make money by lending, they have to keep rates low. One of the things that is happening is some people are going in and purchasing with cash, and then coming in and getting a refinance or financing that purchase after close. And in fact, you can do a refinance or finance a property within 60 days of closing, and still take advantage of the same rules and tax deductions that you would get with a purchase money loan.
Okay.
All right, so some people are doing that.
One fourth condition: loan demand is down. At the same time, the marketplace is flooded with money, and they're talking about the chief economist that talks about that.
Right, and then there are also international pieces with that as well. We've seen in Europe that there's been concerns about the European economy, and some of the countries there, Spain in particular, has been one that's had some concern about what's happening with their debt and their ability to service that debt. And so, money looks for certainty as well. And so, the U.S. backed securities. Issuances of bonds, again, can be at a little bit lower rate to attract that the same investment dollar.
That's fascinating. You really have some great knowledge. Well, let me touch on the last one they put in there. Number 5, given the worldwide political climate, it's hard to imagine that more cash will not pour into the United States, because our economy is seen as simply more secure than any number of overseas alternatives. Do you agree with that?
That's correct. Well, that's a little bit about what we just talked about there, about the Eurozone. Folks are talking about China, about being an emerging market, but, there are still concerns about that, political issues there, geopolitical concerns in places like Russia and the Middle East as well.
That all affects us.
Right. There were issues in Greece, where Greece was looking at confiscating savings that people had in their bank accounts. And so that sort of uncertainty, again, drives investors toward the United States, where there's that sense of security for their investments.
Wow. All that plays into interest rates, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
Isn't that amazing?
We are interconnected in that way.
Great.
And,
Great.
and so talking about interest rates, like I said, rates are at about 18-month lows, and we are right around 4%, give or
That's
take, on a daily
terrific.
basis for a 30-year fixed-rate loan with no points. And so for folks who perhaps were in a situation where they couldn't refinance before because maybe they didn't have some equity, the current increases in property values, they may be able to now refinance. It might be a good time to re-examine that.
Okay, great. Let's look at what property values are doing. Real quick, let's look at September values. 2013, and the Milpitas market, the average sales price for a single-family home was $707,000. The median price was $649,000, and that has shifted to last month in September. I've got it right here. The average price is $802,000, and the median price is $749,000. So we had a nice bump. I think what I've seen generally, I'd say at least about $100,000 in the market
over the
last year. And then the condo market saw September 2013 an average price of $505,000 and a median price of $501,000, and that shifted to last month in September 2014 to $570,000 for an average price, and a median price is $596,000. So
nice
we should all bought condos 10 years ago, and we would be retired by now. So
Well, but we've seen a nice recovery in the real estate market.
We have. Yeah, it's been good.
So, well, terrific. Well, thanks for sharing the latest stats with folks. And if people have questions about the show,
Yes, they can email me at giordanodj@aol.com. And Todd?
T. Flesner at opusadvisors.com.
Perfect. We'll see you soon, and enjoy the nice weather.
Great. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.